Was a girl running in a group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look at Buddy, hot rod and large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod.
We were talking during the break, Chuck and I, about the traffic deaths on the highway this year. 2020, the records are in, and they are up. They were 38,000 deaths on the expressway in 2020. That's 7.2% up, Chuck, from 2019.
And what's interesting about that is the deaths were up 7%, but the actual miles traveled were down, I think, 13%, something like that.
Exactly.
So it's an interesting thing to look at. Why did that happen? And obviously the correlation, the conclusion that you came to, that we both came to, was, well, if there's fewer people on the road, then people are driving faster, and like you said, more single vehicle crashes and things like that.
Eric.
I didn't say anything.
You're driving a little faster, were you?
When the roads were open, during last year and stuff like that, it was kind of sweet and easy just to maneuver and get around. It went
felt
from
like they were writing fewer tickets too. They were more focused on other things. They weren't really writing tickets. I don't know.
Exactly.
They probably didn't want to stop anybody. They were afraid to get the disease.
Well, that too. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was nice from going, getting to work, instead of getting to work in 35 minutes to 25 minutes. That 10-minute cutoff was just pure beautiful.
But I mean, that also goes to statistically. Historically, there used to be more fatal accidents later at night because, again, same reason. There's fewer people on the road. People are driving faster. So
and late at night they're usually drinking.
Well,
right?
There's that.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. Well, that's why you need your electric car, so the car can do the work. You can
let the self-driving car do the work?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going to stop Eric from pushing the button that says, let's see what this baby can do? I thought about that with my new car. I wanted to take it out because there was nobody on the road. I'm thinking I should wind this sucker up and see what gives.
Yeah.
And I just said, no, you know what? I'm getting too old for that game.
I think it's the open road. I think when you just see clear pathway and nobody in front of you, and you're just like, let me see how much I could actually, just push it down just a little bit more. And then it goes from a little bit more to a little bit more after that. And next thing you know, you pedal to the metal all the way to the ground. And next thing you know, you're flying like at 110, at least in my little car.
George, you were talking about my wife and her love of foreign cars.
Yes.
That's one of my only complaints about the foreign cars, the BMWs, the Audis, things like that. You get in a BMW, you can't tell if you're going 50 or 100. It's such a smooth ride, Those European cars have such a smooth ride. You just get in there and you're driving. Next thing you know, you're doing 90 miles an hour.
Back in the day, the old cars, the American cars were that way when they had coil springs and shocks and blah, blah,
I'm
blah.
not that old, sorry.
Well,
that's the whole thing. I'm not that old to remember.
All right. Well, anyway, they rode like your living room chair. They were nice. And Eric got no clue what I'm talking about.
The old Cadillacs and stuff like that?
Yeah, when I say springs and shocks, he has no clue. He's lost. That's like when I say plugs and points to the guys at work. What's a point, boss? I get a big charge out of that.
You just you have a dwell meter?
Oh yeah.
You still show them that?
I got it on display in the showroom as a relic.
That's how I knew I was a real car guy, when I bought a dwell meter.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to use it, but I bought one.
Well, you know what? To be a car guy, you got to have one, whether you can use it or not, whether there's anything to use it on. That's the point.
I'm going to use it on my lawnmower or something. I don't know what else you're using.
Your lawnmower is solid state ignition too. You don't need a 12 meter. Yeah, and in Eric's generation, when they look at something, it's got to start. Whether it's a lawnmower, a car, a tractor, they want it to start while they're looking at it. They don't want any problems with it.
See, but I think my generation, though, where I'm at, I'm in the middle. Like, I'm still old school in the type of way, doing things for our own, and then also like the new stuff, like you said, we look at it and it starts. Well, I'm right in the middle. Like, it's basically like everybody that's after me, like mid 90s, early 2000s, obviously.
Well, your dad is still an older gentleman, and you got the old school mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Well, but there's little things like, so for instance, my wife's new car has the fob. It's keyless. I just know one day one of us is going to leave the car at home and get to the store, and then you have to call the other one and go, so the car let me start and go to the store, now I forgot the key. I know I'm going to do that eventually.
Forgot the fob. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes the fob, without the fob in your car, it doesn't let you go past a certain amount of blocks.
No, it will let you start the car and drive off with your fob away from it.
Oh yeah.
So you can
drive away. They can carjack you and go.
Really?
They just can never start it again once they turn it back off.
So you could basically, if your fob's close enough to the car at your house, you could start the car, drive away, and then you're kind of stuck wherever you end up at.
That's true, too. I left my keys in my scooter downstairs when I went to back the car out, and I got, I don't know, I got probably 100 feet away, and it went beep, beep. No key in the car. Toot, toot, let me know, hey, dummy, go back and look for your keys. Oh, I left the car running one night, too. I had to go back downstairs to check. I just couldn't. And I told Sandy, I'm sure I left that car running because it's got a button to turn off, and I'm just not used to pushing a button to say goodbye.
Does it beep when you get out, though? Is it
No.
supposed to do that? See, I think hers beeps when you do that.
Oh, okay. I wish this one would. Otherwise, we call it the dummy beep.
Yeah.
For the dummies. Unbelievable. But yeah, this whole electric car thing has just turned the country upside down, and in a good way, because it's time for some innovation. It's time for a change. I want you to know, and Chuck, I got to tell you, your electric vehicle is not a green vehicle.
I completely agree. I understand, and I agree that there's some innovation, and we've talked extensively about batteries and things like that. I completely agree. There's a lot. So that's always my lecture to people. I said, don't buy an electric vehicle thinking you're being green, because you're just changing the dynamics. You're still, there's still a lot of mining that goes into rare earth metals, and there's still a dirty coal power plant somewhere that you can't see charging your car at night. So there's all these things. So don't do it to be green. Do it because you want an electric vehicle.
You do it because you want electric, yeah. And
Right.
have you ever driven one?
I've driven a couple of hybrids. I'm still waiting to drive the new Tesla.
I drove a Chevy Volt when
Right.
it first came out. There was a mechanic up in the South Side. He knew of me. He knew the car guy on the radio, and he decided he was the Volt guy there at that dealership in Chicago. He got the Volt and brought it home one night to my shop and said, "Come on, let's go for a ride." Well, first of all, I got in and I couldn't barely get out of it, but because it's pretty small, it's a small vehicle. But they're making big electric vehicles now. But that thing was like driving the fastest go-kart I ever drove,
Right.
or the fastest golf cart, because I'm a big golfer, or was. I'm a big everything, but I was a golfer. And that was the fastest golf cart I ever drove, Chuck. That sucker, when you hit the gas or hit the gas pedal, it flew. It's geared one-on-one. It's like a slot car.
Well, and that's when I know a guy that just recently drove a Tesla on vacation, and that was kind of his commentary was it's different because you hear all the road noise. You're not used to it. I always joke that when you're in a Tesla, the only thing you hear is the tires. You don't hear really anything else.
No, you don't.
And so it's a new experience, and so you sort of get a more, if you have the radio off and you don't hear the car running.
I'd be asleep in a block.
That's the thing, yeah.
I'd be asleep. I would fall to pieces. Yeah, But hey, it's the newest. It's what's happening. This is what's coming on. Now, Toyota is going the other way. Toyota has unveiled a hydrogen burning engine plan.
Okay.
To fight the electric vehicle mania. And hydrogen burning engine plan, I'm going to tell you what, hydrogen is a true green fuel.
Yes.
Just like natural gas is, and propane. Everything they put out the tailpipe is water. None of those vehicles pollute the air one iota. So all you tree huggers, if you think you're helping the world by buying an electric vehicle, you're not. It's nice to have an electric, and you're going to have one. Very soon, all the automakers are going to the point where they're not going to make anything else, Chuck.
I agree.
And
government is forcing them. We talked about California, Washington State, Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you like it or not, your government's going to force us.
England
to go that way.
has said 2035 or 2035. That's it.
Yeah.
No more gas-powered vehicles. California said the same thing.
Well, and so you make an interesting point, though, is that when you have in case of Europe, if Europe's not making gas vehicles anymore, if you are, like we mentioned, my wife that enjoys the European cars, she's not going to have a choice in the matter, right? If she wants to have a BMW, a Volvo,
she's
whatever,
going to buy electric.
She's going to have to buy electric next time around.
That's all they're going to make.
Right.
Now, and that, the transition. What about the transition from gas to electric? Because that's coming. And it's just like, I don't remember this. I wasn't around for this, although these guys probably thought I was. The turn of the century when we went from horse-drawn carriage to horseless carriage. There was a transition. Everybody had horses. Everybody rode a horse, had a cart, had a buckboard, whatever they had, a stagecoach, I don't know. But all that went away.
Okay, but you were around for when we went from leaded to unleaded.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, same kind of idea, right?
You're
still going to the gas station.
That was like the birth of the EPA. That was the birth of pollution control.
Okay.
Was the catalytic converter, and I mean in the old days, if it plugged up, there was a hole in the middle of it. You could pop the plug out and let all the goodies out. Go driving down the street until it was all clear, and then put the plug back in, and it ran like they ran great. So yeah, that was naughty. I'm telling you, but the statute of limitations is out.
It's been over 20 years now. You're good.
Oh, it's been over 40 years. But I remember leaded and unleaded gas, and I remember the first catalytic converter was 74. First electronic ignition 74. Catalytic converters were, I think, 76. But it was all different years that different car manufacturers jumped in and got on the bandwagon. But it was a transition.
Right.
This transition is going to be more like putting your horse out to pasture and buying a Tesla. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be quite a bit. Or in other words, in those days it was buying a Model A. Put my horse out to pasture and buy a Model A and drive all around town. And there was no roads ready for it. And we go into the self-driving. There's not a lot of roads ready for self-driving.
But I mean, at that point, going from like a horse and buggy to a Model T, I mean, the Model T wasn't that much different than a horse and buggy, you know.
Oh, but it was a huge, huge innovation.
Right.
At the time. I mean, internal combustion, and I mean, there were no gas stations. I don't.
Well, was it like run off kerosene and stuff like that?
Well, they had
the early vehicles run off
had
kerosene.
to burn their liquor. I don't know.
And they had to still out back making their own fuel.
Yeah, get your car drunk and take it for a ride. And just pour booze in the gas tank. No, I'm telling you, this transition is going to be, and it's going to be hard fought. It's going to be hard fought. There's going to be a lot of diehards that do not want electric. Chuck, I got to tell you, the electric vehicle coming of age is going to be a transition that America will not take lightly. I guarantee you. There are some real diehards out there for internal combustion. There's a lot of people that want their gas-powered car, or they want that hydrogen-powered car because it's got the same engine. You can have a Hemi that's hydrogen-powered. Okay, but you can't have a Dodge Challenger that's electric-powered. Not yet.
Well, and so that's, not to get on my political soapbox, but I agree that we should let the free market decide. And the idea that instead of government outlawing something, you basically say, here are the options. And if hydrogen wins out over electric, or if people stick with combustion, then so be it. Let the free market decide. Right now, you could buy a Tesla, you could buy hydrogen, you could buy internal combustion, you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a good solution. Because again, even though I'm in favor of EV, I also can appreciate there's so many old car guys out there. What are you going to do? You're going to take all your old cars and convert to electric?
Where are they going to get gas?
Right. And so that becomes the next question. Where are you going to get gas? Is gas going to be $30, $50 a gallon at that point?
Well, knowing our government, yes, it will be.
Well, and so that's my concern, is that I also appreciate that there's a lot of people out there that drive old cars that want to keep them running. I mean, even now, George, you keep talking about the DeLorean. I'm at that point now where I said, you're right. I mean, there's a couple of electric DeLoreans out there, and so you got to think about that. If I want to keep this car the rest of my life, maybe I need to go electric.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
So I mean, that's the thing, is that we don't know what that long term looks like.
Well, and like the transition from horse and buggy to the Model A, this is going to be different. There was a lot of hardcore horsemen then, and they decided they didn't want any part of that foolish tomfoolery. And look where we're at now with automobiles and internal combustion. So this is going to happen.
Right. I was reading an interesting article about how right around the time, right before Ford started mass producing the Model T, there was these groups that were going, we have to figure out what to do with all the horse droppings. It's becoming a huge problem in the major cities. What are we going to do about it? It's the worst, it's like basically at that point, there was this big problem of the horses, and it just went away overnight with the car.
With the car coming in.
It worked itself out. And so that was sort of the thing, is that's how innovation works. But, I like I said, I can absolutely appreciate the last thing in a world we'd want to see is to have all these guys that go to the Blue Top and places like that have to leave their cars in the garage and not be able to drive it because they can't find fuel.
And never use them again.
That would be a tragedy. That absolutely would be.
That would not be good. But yeah, and then there's more to be said for that than you can imagine, because there's a lot of people that are just diehards.
Right.
They're diehard horse people, and they're going to be diehard gas people. It's just maybe they're descended from them. Who knows? But I know that you're going to get electric vehicles. They're coming your way, whether you like it or not. I got to tell you, Chuck, and this, not to change the subject too far, I cannot find a fireman that will come on and talk to me because I can't find an expert in any fire department I've called for lithium-ion fires.
Right.
Did you see there was a Tesla out west? It caught on fire, got in a wreck, caught on fire. They put it out, took it to the garage, took it to the body shop. It was in a stall in the body shop, and it caught fire again. Lithium-ion is some volatile stuff. The body shop was probably hot and dank, hot and humid, and it just fired up again.
But as I pointed out earlier, though, the idea of even hydrogen. Now you have hydrogen under pressure, and so these firefighters have to deal with, well, is it electric? Do I have pressurized hydrogen here? What do I have to deal with when I get on scene?
Yeah, they don't know when they get on scene what they're going to see.
Right.
Because there's going to be gasoline, electric, hydrogen fuel cell. They're going to be.
You can have an accident where you have all of them. All in one intersection.
There's a big cement company.
Wazinga.
Yes.
Yes.
He drives everything on natural gas.
Yeah, and you can actually fill up your vehicle. They actually have stations where you can go and get
natural gas.
Right.
We have, according to what I've read, we as a country we have more natural gas than we have anything.
Right.
And coal, oil, anything.
But and that's the same idea of having hybrid solutions, where maybe for police officers, maybe municipal vehicles would run on natural gas. Maybe in-town vehicles would run on hydrogen natural gas. Maybe, and that's my big issue with EV is not good for over-the-road, long-haul driving. I want to drive out to the East Coast or something. I don't want to have to stop every couple hours and wait an hour. So that's not a good solution. It's a great in-town solution when I go back to work, going back and forth for a couple days and then charge my car. It's a great solution. It's not great for over the road.
Oh, I know. Tesla's built some way stations from here to California, so you drive so far and you plug in for an hour, and it's a nice way station.
So they have
got bathrooms, they got a bar,
so,
and they even got overnight stay. Mm-hmm. And if that was the case, and I was driving to California, and I had to stop and charge and chop and charge, and they all had bars, I'd be smashed by the time I got to California.
Well, that's one of his projects is to have the supercharger network. So I-80 was the first supercharger corridor, and now they're
it should have been I-80's the big one.
Right. I'm saying is that was the first supercharger corridor, and they're going in different directions where people generally like to go on vacation and travel. So, I mean, he's trying to overcome the innovation, but there's also that aspect of, when I'm driving across the country, I can get in and out of a gas station in 4 or 5 minutes. Now I'm waiting around 20 minutes, half hour to charge my Tesla, whatever. It changes dynamics a little bit of a trip,
Yeah, well, commercial retailers, 7-Eleven, is now putting electric charging stations in front of all their stores.
And so for a retailer like that, that's a perfect solution, because now what am I going to do? I'm stuck. I got to go get a Slurpee, go get a big gulp while I'm waiting to charge my car, right? So that's
exactly. I'm going to go charge my car at the 7-Eleven. I get a Slurpee or I get a hot dog or something.
Because I've got 20 minutes to kill at that point, right? I got 20, 30 minutes. What am I going to do? I'm going to go and get a hot dog and a Slurpee, and I'm going to spend some money at your store.
I don't know. I got to say that you're right. It's inconvenient to drive across country that way. It's just going to be, it's not going to be fun if you got to stop every 300 miles. Even if you go 400 miles, that's nothing. That's not even a day's driving.
Right.
I mean, I've been through this cross country, and it's 600 miles a day. That's my limit. I told the wife when you better, when I get to 550, you better start looking for a motel that's got a bar and a pool,